Matt Schneidman is the Raiders beat writer for the Mercury News, and he joins us now. All right, Matt, what kind of drama should we expect on Thursday night with your Raiders?
I think you can really expect anything. You know, if there's anything I've learned about covering a team John Gruden is associated with, it's that nothing should come as a surprise. And I know the talk of the last day is, who is this surprise pick going to be? I said yesterday, you know, they could pick Booby Miles and I wouldn't even be surprised, because you just never know what the Raiders are going to do. You know, if they get a guy like Quinnen Williams, I'd be surprised, because we've seen the fortunes of this Raiders franchise the past 10, 15 years. And if they get the guy that everyone is saying, oh, they'd be lucky to get him, I'd be surprised about that. You know, could it be a quarterback? Sure. Could it be a wide receiver? Absolutely. So I'm bracing for anything. I think the Raiders are doing the same, and I think that's what everyone's doing, because more so than really any other franchise, they've kind of been the beacon for wild trades and unpredictability the past 10, 15 years.
Who's in charge on draft night?
I still think it's Gruden, but I think it's more so Mayock than people think. You know, obviously Reggie McKenzie, the last general manager, just less than 3 years ago won NFL Executive of the Year. That dynamic from the start, we knew that was all Gruden, not just because of what they're paying him, but because just the personalities. You could tell that Gruden was in charge, whether it be the Khalil Mack trade, the Amari Cooper trade. You could tell Gruden was calling the shots. I think they didn't hire Mike Mayock, and as you know Mike well. They didn't hire him to come in and really manage the nuances of the salary cap or make every personnel decision. They hired him because he's one of the most well-respected draft analysts in the business in the last 15 years. So this week in this war room for this 2019 NFL draft, I think Mike does have a lot more of a say than people might think. And if you have John Gruden's ear, that's step number one into, I don't want to say restricting his power, restricting his say, but I think the more Mike Mayock input you have this week, the better.
What about sending his scouts home, that they're not going to be involved on Thursday night or this weekend in Nashville?
Yeah, I think that was blown a little bit out of proportion, just because, you know, it's not totally out of the ordinary that they get Easter weekend off. And I think it was expected that there would be a lot of overhaul or turnover in the scouting department after the draft because of the new GM. I mean, you need the scouts up until the draft because they've done a whole season's worth of work on these college guys. But I think the one thing that maybe was a little eyebrow raising was that they wouldn't come back, and that, you know, whether it be signing undrafted free agents or guys in the late round that Mayock and Gruden may need input on, these scouts reportedly won't be there to do that. So it was a little surprising, the not coming back part and how they're staying home for good. But in terms of sending them home and then on the back end, them eventually not coming back, I wasn't too surprised by that. And if there's anything I take away from it, it's that Mayock is overcompensating for kind of his tendency and the tendency this time of year for leaks to get out. And there have been leaks in the building as recent as last year, and even so, you know, a couple weeks ago. So I think it's Mayock just being overly cautious in his first year as a GM. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that should be cause for concern if you're a Raiders fan.
What are the fans, if you took a poll, their perception of Derek Carr is what?
That's interesting. I think it's probably about 70-30 in favor of Derek Carr, and that's pretty much what Raiders Twitter has been all the talk about. I think if you poll John Gruden and Mike Mayock, it's a little higher. I think Raiders fans realize, and the NFL world realizes, that Derek Carr needs more around him. I mean, since he broke his leg in that second-to-last regular season game of 2016, he has been nowhere near the same quarterback. But that is also because last year he had Jordy Nelson as his number one wide receiver for the majority of the season after they traded Amari Cooper. He's had an offensive line last year that allowed him to be sacked 51 times. In 2016 and 2017 combined, he was sacked 36 times. So I think this year you've seen it with the additions of Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams, making Trent Brown the highest paid offensive lineman in history. This year is really about surrounding Derek Carr with those pieces and seeing who the true Derek Carr is, because I really don't think he's guaranteed coming to Vegas with the Raiders next year. I guess that being said, that's why I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback this year. I think they're going to give him one more year. But then after this year, I think anything goes.
If Kyler Murray falls, he's there at 4. What do the Raiders do?
I think they trade back. I think Kyler Murray will be there. I think it'll go Quinnen Williams, Bosa, Josh Allen, assuming the Jets stay put. And I think the phones at Raiders HQ are going to be buzzing off the hook. And Mayock has talked excessively about not wanting to trade back, but wanting to add picks in the 30 to 60 range because he feels, especially in this draft, that's where a real hotbed of hidden talent can be. So I think if Kyler Murray is still on the board at number 4, you're going to get teams like Washington, like Miami, buzzing on your phones wanting to trade up ahead of the Giants if they think they're going to pick Kyler Murray, or even Dwayne Haskins. Who knows? Maybe Dwayne Haskins is the number 1 quarterback everyone's going to covet in this draft. So I think if Kyler Murray's still on the board at number 4, the Raiders resist that temptation. As much as John Gruden loves Kyler Murray, because he's a quarterback's guy, he's a good player. We know how much he loves him, but I do think they trade back to the middle of the first round and add some picks in the later rounds.
It's always interesting. Have fun on Thursday night. Matt, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate it, Dan. Thanks for having me.
It's Matt Schneidman. He's the Raiders beat writer for the San Jose Mercury News.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.